Single dad Marcus was struggling to save his dying daughter when millionaire Victoria laughed at him and threw him out. 3 months later, fate brought them face to face again. Victoria's car was hanging off a bridge, about to explode. Marcus had seconds to decide: walk away and let karma take revenge, or risk everything to save the woman who destroyed him. What happened next changed everyone's life forever. Before you watch full story, comment below from which country are you watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories. Marcus stood outside the grand mansion, his worn-out shoes covered in mud. Rain poured down his tired face as he knocked on the heavy wooden door. His daughter Emma was sick. Very sick. He needed this job more than anything in the world. The door opened. A woman in expensive clothes looked down at him with cold eyes. Victoria Sterling. The richest woman in the city. Her husband Richard stood behind her, counting money with a bored expression. "You're late," Victoria said sharply. "The gardening work was supposed to start an hour ago." "I'm sorry, ma'am. My daughter had a doctor's appointment." "She has." "I don't care about your excuses," Victoria cut him off. "You're fired before you even start. Get off my property." Marcus felt his heart sink. "Please, ma'am. I really need this job. My Emma needs medicine. Just give me one chance." Victoria laughed. A cruel, cold laugh. "Why should I care about some stranger's sick child? That's your problem, not mine. Richard, call security." Richard smirked and reached for his phone. "You heard my wife. Leave now or we'll have you arrested for trespassing." Marcus felt anger rising in his chest. But he swallowed it down. He had Emma to think about. He turned and walked away in the rain, his heart heavy with rejection and shame. Behind him, he heard Victoria and Richard laughing. That night, Marcus worked 3 different jobs. He delivered food until midnight. He cleaned offices until dawn. He drove a taxi in between. All for Emma. All for his 7-year-old daughter who was fighting cancer. Her mother had left them 2 years ago, saying she couldn't handle the pressure. Since then, it had been just Marcus and Emma against the world. 3 months passed. Marcus had forgotten about Victoria Sterling and her cruel rejection. He was too busy fighting his own battles. Emma's condition was getting worse. The medical bills were piling up like mountains he couldn't climb. One evening, Marcus was driving his taxi near the wealthy part of town. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and purple. He was thinking about Emma, who was waiting for him at home with their elderly neighbor Mrs. Chen. Suddenly, he heard screams. Loud, terrified screams. Marcus slammed on his brakes and looked around. There, near the bridge over the river, a car had crashed through the railing. It was hanging halfway off the bridge, tilting dangerously over the water below. Black smoke poured from the hood. The car was going to fall any second. Without thinking, Marcus jumped out of his taxi and ran toward the accident. Other people were standing around, filming with their phones, but nobody was helping. As he got closer, his heart stopped. Inside the car was Victoria Sterling. The same woman who had humiliated him. Who had thrown him out like trash. Who had laughed at his sick daughter. For a split second, Marcus froze. Every fiber of his being wanted to walk away. To let karma handle this. To feel the satisfaction of watching someone who hurt him face consequences. But then he saw her face. Real terror. Real fear of death. And he saw something else in the passenger seat. A small stuffed animal. A child's toy. Marcus didn't hesitate anymore. He ran to the car and pulled at the door. It was jammed. The car tilted more, groaning under its own weight. People were screaming at him to stay back, that it was too dangerous. "There's a child." Victoria screamed from inside. "My daughter is in the back seat. Please save my daughter." Marcus looked in the back and saw a little girl, about Emma's age, unconscious and bleeding. His heart broke. No matter what Victoria had done to him, this innocent child didn't deserve to die. The car shifted again. Metal screeched. It was going to fall. Marcus made his choice. He smashed the rear window with a rock. Glass cut his hands, blood dripping down his arms. He reached inside and grabbed the little girl. Her small body was limp and heavy. He pulled her out just as the car lurched forward violently. "Wait! Don't leave me!" Victoria screamed, reaching out her hand through the broken window. Marcus could have run. He had the child. He could have saved just the innocent one and let Victoria face her fate. Everyone would have called him a hero. No one would have blamed him. But Marcus couldn't do it. Despite everything, he couldn't let someone die when he could help. He handed the little girl to someone in the crowd and turned back. The car was now completely tilted, hanging by just one wheel. Flames were starting to spread from the engine. He had seconds, maybe less. Marcus climbed onto the hood of the car. The metal was hot, burning his hands. He reached through the driver's side window and grabbed Victoria's arm. Her seatbelt was stuck. He pulled out his pocket knife and cut through it with shaking hands. "Come on," he shouted. "Give me your hand." Victoria looked at him, and in that moment, their eyes met. She recognized him. The gardener she had fired. The man she had mocked. The father she had laughed at. Tears streamed down her face. "Why?" she whispered. "Why are you helping me?" "Because it's the right thing to do," Marcus said simply. "Now move." He pulled her through the window just as the car gave its final groan. They tumbled backward off the hood onto the bridge. 1 second later, the car plunged into the river below with a massive splash. Flames hissed as they hit the water. Marcus and Victoria lay on the ground, gasping for air. His clothes were burned. His hands were bleeding badly. His ribs hurt from where he had landed. But they were alive. Sirens wailed in the distance. People surrounded them. Someone threw a blanket over Marcus's shoulders. He tried to stand up but collapsed. His body had finally given up. The last thing he saw before darkness took him was Victoria Sterling, sitting on the ground, holding her daughter, and staring at him with an expression he couldn't read. Marcus woke up in a hospital bed. Bright white lights hurt his eyes. His whole body ached. His hands were wrapped in thick bandages. For a moment, he panicked. Emma. Where was Emma? Who was taking care of her? "Dad," a small voice cried out. Marcus turned his head and saw his daughter sitting in a chair beside his bed. Mrs. Chin stood behind her, smiling with relief. Emma's face was thin and pale, but her eyes were shining with tears of joy. "Emma, baby, you shouldn't be here. You need to rest," Marcus said weakly. "The hospital brought me here when they found your information," Mrs. Chin explained. "Don't worry. I've been with her the whole time. You've been unconscious for 2 days, Marcus." 2 days. Marcus tried to sit up but pain shot through his ribs. A doctor came in and gently pushed him back down. "Easy there, hero," the doctor said with a kind smile. "You have 3 broken ribs, second-degree burns on your hands and chest, and a severe concussion. You're lucky to be alive. What you did was incredibly brave and incredibly stupid." Marcus managed a weak smile. "How are they? The woman and her daughter?" "The little girl has a broken arm and some cuts, but she'll be fine. The woman, Mrs. Sterling, she's in the VIP section. She's been asking about you constantly." Before Marcus could respond, the door opened. Richard Sterling walked in, wearing an expensive suit. His face was hard to read. Behind him came 2 security guards. Marcus felt his stomach drop. Was he in trouble? Was Richard going to sue him for the car? For touching his wife. Rich people did things like that. But then Richard did something unexpected. He walked right up to Marcus's bed, and his eyes filled with tears. The powerful, cold businessman Marcus remembered started crying. "I owe you my family," Richard said, his voice breaking. "I owe you everything. My daughter, my wife, they're alive because of you. After what we did to you, after how we treated you, you still saved them." Richard fell to his knees beside the hospital bed. A millionaire, kneeling before a poor taxi driver. Marcus was too shocked to speak. "I'm sorry," Richard sobbed. "I'm so sorry for how we treated you. For laughing at you. For turning you away when you needed help. For being so cruel about your daughter. We were monsters. And you're a better man than I could ever be." Marcus didn't know what to say. He had spent 3 months hating these people. Resenting them. Wishing bad things upon them. But now, seeing this powerful man broken and crying, he felt only sadness. Sadness for how people treat each other. Sadness for how money can make humans forget their humanity. "Where is your wife?" Marcus asked quietly. "She's with our daughter Sophie. She wants to see you, but she's afraid. Afraid you hate her. Afraid you did this out of obligation, not kindness." "I don't hate her," Marcus said, surprising himself. "I was angry, yes. But hate? No. I couldn't let a child die. I couldn't let any person die, even someone who hurt me. That's not who I am. That's not who I want my Emma to become." Richard looked up at Marcus with admiration. How do you have such a good heart after everything life has thrown at you? After everything we threw at you?" Marcus looked at his daughter, sitting quietly in her chair, listening to every word. She was his reason. His purpose. His strength. "Because Emma is watching," Marcus said softly. "Every day, she watches how I react to pain. How I treat people who hurt me. How I handle unfairness. If I become bitter and cruel because the world is bitter and cruel, what lesson am I teaching her? No. I want her to know that kindness is strength, not weakness. That forgiveness is power, not surrender." Richard wiped his eyes. He stood up and pulled out his checkbook. "I want to pay for all your medical bills. And Emma's too. Every single one. No arguments." Marcus started to protest, but Richard held up his hand. "Please," Richard begged. "Please let me do this. It's the least I can do. You gave me my daughter back. Let me help save yours." Marcus felt tears running down his own face. "Okay," he whispered. "Okay." Over the next week, everything changed. Victoria came to visit Marcus every single day. The first time she entered his room, she couldn't stop crying. She tried to speak but words wouldn't come. She just stood there, sobbing, holding a bouquet of flowers. "I'm sorry," she finally managed to say. "I'm so sorry. I was horrible to you. I judged you. I mocked your pain. I laughed at your sick daughter. What kind of person does that? What kind of monster was I?" Marcus saw something in her he hadn't seen before. Real remorse. Real shame. Real change. "You made a mistake," Marcus said gently. "You treated me badly. But you're human. Humans make mistakes. What matters is what you do now." Victoria sat down in the chair beside his bed. "I've been thinking about that day non-stop. When I was trapped in that car, thinking I was going to die, all I could think about was Sophie. My daughter. How much I love her. How desperate I was to save her. And then I realized, that's exactly how you felt that day you came to my house. You were desperate to save your daughter. And I laughed at you. I laughed at a father's love. She put her face in her hands. I didn't know Emma was sick. But even if she was healthy, I should never have treated you that way. I should never have treated any person that way. Money made me forget that everyone has struggles. Everyone has pain. Everyone deserves respect. Why were you so cruel? Marcus asked, not in anger, but in genuine curiosity. Victoria took a deep breath. I grew up poor. Very poor. People treated me like I was nothing. When I finally made money, I swore I would never be looked down on again. I became the person who looked down on others first. I became exactly what I hated. I became the person who once hurt me. Marcus understood. Pain that isn't healed often gets passed on to others. It's not too late to change, he said. I want to, Victoria said earnestly. I want to be better. For Sophie. For Richard. For myself. Will you help me? Will you teach me how to be kind like you? Marcus smiled. I'm not perfect. I'm just trying to be the dad Emma deserves. But yes, we can learn together. From that day forward, Victoria changed. Really changed. It wasn't for show. It wasn't for publicity. She started visiting the hospital's children's cancer ward, where Emma was now a patient receiving proper treatment. She read stories to the sick kids. She donated money, yes, but more importantly, she donated her time. Sophie and Emma became best friends. Despite their different backgrounds, they were just two 7-year-old girls who loved dolls and drawing and making each other laugh. Watching them play together made Marcus cry with joy and sadness. Joy because Emma was finally happy. Sadness because he realized how much Emma had been missing by not having friends, not going to school, not living a normal childhood. Richard helped Marcus find a real job. Not charity, but a good position at his company as a building manager. You're hardworking, honest, and resourceful, Richard said. Those are the qualities I need in my team. The media found out about the rescue. News channels wanted interviews. Newspapers wanted stories. Everyone called Marcus a hero. But he refused every interview. He didn't want fame. He just wanted his daughter to be healthy. 2 months after the accident, Emma's condition suddenly became worse. Much worse. Marcus got a call at work from the hospital. The words the doctor said made his world stop spinning. Emma needs a bone marrow transplant. Without it, she has maybe 3 months to live. We're searching for a donor, but finding a match is difficult. You're not compatible. We need to keep looking. Marcus felt like he was drowning. He had thought things were getting better. He had thought maybe, finally, luck was on his side. But life had other plans. He ran to the hospital. Emma was sleeping in her bed, looking smaller than ever. Marcus sat beside her and held her tiny hand. He prayed. He begged. He promised anything to anyone who would listen. Just save his daughter. Just let her live. Victoria found him there at midnight, still holding Emma's hand, tears streaming down his face. I heard, she said quietly. I'm getting tested tomorrow. So is Richard. So is Sophie. Marcus looked up at her with red, swollen eyes. Why? Why would you do this? Because Emma is special, Victoria said, sitting down beside him. Because you're special. Because when I was dying, you didn't think about yourself. You thought about my daughter. You thought about doing the right thing. Now it's my turn to do the right thing. For Emma. For you. For the kind of person I want to be. But none of them were matches. Neither Victoria, nor Richard, nor Sophie. The doctor tested dozens of potential donors. None compatible. Marcus fell into despair. He stopped eating. He stopped sleeping. He just sat by Emma's bed, watching her get weaker each day. She was so brave. So strong. She never complained. She never cried. She just smiled at her dad and told him she loved him. "Dad, don't be sad," she whispered one evening, her voice weak. "If I go to heaven, I'll get to meet Mom. And I'll tell her what an amazing dad you are." Marcus broke down. He held his daughter and cried like he had never cried before. "No, baby. No. You're not going anywhere. You're going to stay here with me. We're going to fight this together." But he didn't know how. He felt helpless. Powerless. All the courage he had shown saving Victoria meant nothing if he couldn't save his own daughter. Victoria threw her money into the search. She hired the best doctors. She contacted national and international bone marrow registries. She offered rewards for testing. Thousands of people came forward to test. But still, no match. Then, one evening, Victoria burst into Emma's hospital room. Her face was flushed. She was out of breath. "We found someone," she shouted. "We found a match." Marcus jumped up. "What? Who? Where?" "A woman in Seattle. She's a perfect match. She's flying here tomorrow. The transplant can happen this weekend." Marcus couldn't believe it. After all the darkness, finally, a ray of light. He hugged Victoria, this woman who had once been his enemy and was now his savior. "Thank you," he sobbed. "Thank you, thank you, thank you." The transplant was scheduled. The donor arrived. Her name was Michelle. She was a 32-year-old teacher who had registered as a donor 5 years ago and had been waiting for the chance to help someone. "I'm happy to do this," Michelle told Marcus. "Every child deserves a chance to live. Emma seems like a special girl." The surgery was long. Marcus paced the hospital hallway for 6 hours. Victoria and Richard stayed with him the entire time. They brought him coffee. They held his hands when he shook with fear. They prayed with him when he couldn't find words. Finally, the doctor came out. He was smiling. The transplant was successful. "Emma is strong. She's a fighter. She's going to make it." Marcus collapsed to his knees right there in the hallway. He put his face in his hands and wept. Not tears of sadness this time, but tears of joy. Pure, overwhelming joy. His daughter was going to live. His Emma was going to be okay. Victoria knelt beside him and wrapped her arms around him. "She's going to make it, Marcus. Your little girl is going to make it." 6 months later, Emma was in remission. Her hair was growing back. Her cheeks had color again. She was laughing, playing, and being a normal 7-year-old girl. Marcus stood in the backyard of his new house. Not a mansion, but a real home with 3 bedrooms and a yard where Emma could play. Victoria and Richard had helped him with the down payment, calling it a bonus from his job, though Marcus knew the truth. Emma and Sophie were playing on the swing set, giggling and singing. Michelle, the donor who had saved Emma's life, had moved to their city and visited often. She had become like an aunt to Emma. Victoria and Richard stood beside Marcus, watching the girls play. "You know," Victoria said quietly, "that day you came to my house, asking for a job, I was having the worst day. I had just found out my company was being sued. I was angry at the world. And I took it out on you. But that's no excuse. There is no excuse for how I treated you. You've apologized 100 times, Marcus said. And you've shown me through your actions that you've changed. That's what matters. I want to tell you something," Victoria continued. "When I was hanging off that bridge, about to die, I was so scared. But what scared me most wasn't death. It was the thought that I had wasted my life being cruel. Being selfish. Being someone my daughter would be ashamed of. You saved my life, Marcus. But more than that, you saved my soul. You showed me what it means to be truly human. Richard nodded. You changed us, Marcus. Both of us. We started a foundation in Emma's name. We're helping families who have children with cancer. Paying their medical bills. Providing housing near hospitals. Giving them hope. We're doing it because of you. Because you showed us what real strength looks like. Marcus felt his throat tighten with emotion. I didn't do anything special. I just did what any father would do. No, Victoria said firmly. You did what a hero would do. You put aside your pain, your anger, your justified resentment, and you saved us. That's not something any person would do. That's something only a special person would do. Emma ran over, breathless from playing. Dad! Dad! Can Sophie sleep over this weekend? Please. Marcus looked down at his daughter's bright, healthy, happy face. This face he had been so afraid he would lose. This smile he had fought so hard to protect. Of course, baby. Of course she can. Emma hugged him tight. I love you, Dad. You're the best dad in the whole world. I love you too, Emma. More than you'll ever know. As the sun set over their backyard, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, Marcus realized something profound. Life had tested him in every possible way. It had taken his wife. It had given his daughter cancer. It had pushed him to the edge of poverty and despair. It had put him face to face with people who mocked his pain. But through it all, he had held on to his humanity. He had chosen kindness when revenge would have been easier. He had chosen compassion when anger would have been justified. He had chosen love when hate would have been understandable. And in the end, that choice had saved everyone. Not just Victoria and Sophie on that bridge, but Emma, and Marcus himself, and even Victoria and Richard's souls. Emma's 9th birthday party was held at the Children's Cancer Center that Victoria and Richard had built. It was a beautiful facility, nothing like the cold, sterile hospital where Emma had once fought for her life. This place was full of color, hope, and love. Over 100 children and their families attended the party. These were families who had been helped by the Sterling Foundation. Families who had been given hope when they thought all hope was lost. Marcus stood on a small stage to say a few words. Emma sat in the front row between Sophie and Michelle, grinning up at her father. 2 years ago, Marcus began, I was a broken man. I was working 3 jobs, drowning in debt, and watching my daughter die slowly. I was angry at the world. I was angry at life. I was angry at people who had so much when I had so little. He paused, looking out at the crowd. Then something happened that changed everything. I had a choice to make. I could let anger and resentment control me, or I could choose kindness. I could choose to save someone who had hurt me, or I could walk away and feel justified. I chose kindness. And that choice created a ripple effect I never could have imagined. It saved lives. It changed hearts. It created this foundation that has now helped over 500 families. It brought amazing people into my life. He looked at Victoria, Richard, and Michelle. People who have become family. His voice broke with emotion. But most importantly, my daughter is here. Healthy. Happy. Alive. And that makes every hardship, every tear, every struggle worth it. The crowd stood and applauded. Emma ran up on stage and hugged her father. Marcus lifted her up, holding her tight, feeling her solid, warm, living body in his arms. Victoria came up on stage too. I have an announcement, she said into the microphone. Marcus, you changed my life. You showed me what it means to be truly wealthy, not in money, but in character. Today, I want to announce that the Sterling Foundation is being renamed the Emma and Marcus Hope Foundation. Because that's what you both gave me. Hope. Hope that people can change. Hope that kindness still exists. Hope that one person's courage can change the world. Marcus shook his head, tears streaming down his face. That's too much. I don't deserve. Yes, you do, Richard interrupted, joining them on stage. You deserve everything good this world has to offer. You're the best man I know. You're the person I hope to become. Emma looked up at her father. Dad, why are you crying? Marcus laughed through his tears. Because I'm happy, baby. Because I'm so happy. That evening, after the party, Marcus sat with Emma on the roof of their house, looking at the stars. It was something they did every Saturday night, weather permitting. A special tradition just for them. Dad, Emma said quietly, Mrs. Chen told me about that day. About the bridge. About how you saved Mrs. Victoria even though she was mean to you. Why did you do it? Marcus thought carefully about his answer. Because, Emma, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to get sick. Being kind doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're strong enough to choose love over hate. Does that make sense? Emma nodded slowly. I think so. It means being a good person even when other people are bad. Exactly. And you know what? That's the most important lesson I can teach you. Not how to be rich. Not how to be famous. But how to be kind. How to be good. How to be someone who makes the world better just by being in it. Emma snuggled against her father. I want to be like you when I grow up. Marcus kissed the top of her head. You're already better than me, baby. You're already perfect. They sat in silence for a while, watching the stars twinkle in the infinite darkness. Each star a reminder that even in the darkest night, there is light. Even in the hardest times, there is hope. Marcus thought about the journey he had been on. From poverty to stability. From despair to joy. From anger to forgiveness. From broken to healed. It hadn't been easy. It had been the hardest thing he had ever done. But sitting here, with his healthy daughter in his arms, surrounded by people who loved them, Marcus knew one thing for certain. Every tear had been worth it. Every struggle had meaning. Every moment of pain had led to this moment of peace. And if he had to do it all again, he wouldn't change a single thing. Because this, right here, right now, was everything. This was love. This was family. This was life. This was home. Sometimes the people who hurt us the most end up teaching us the greatest lessons. Not because of their cruelty, but because of how we choose to respond to it. Marcus chose kindness. And that choice didn't just save lives. It changed them forever.